What's up, everyone? Jason Gilbo here at JGilbo11, breaking down pitchers for tonight's slate. Got a nice, decent-sized 8-game slate for a Thursday. Definitely have at least some pitching options to consider, so definitely going to jump into things here. And looking at it, I think Lance McCullers is coming as the top option. Big road favorite, minus 182. Royals with under a 4-run total. McCullers is one of those guys, struggled a little bit last time out in Texas, but this guy's just been absolutely phenomenal this year. 12.2% swinging strike rate, 28.2% strikeout rate. Walk rate down from years past, 7.3% this year. His ground ball rate is elite, 61.7%. This is what you're going to look for. Induces a fair amount of weak contact, 23%. McCullers kind of grades out as the safe play on the slate. I think there isn't a huge drop off between him and Lester, but obviously you just can't deny that McCullers has been the better arm so far this season, and definitely draws a little bit of an easier matchup. So McCullers is definitely my number one on both sides tonight. Hopefully he doesn't catch whatever Keuchel had last night and get the late scratch, but. Looking at Jon Lester, Colorado away from home. Against left-handed pitching, obviously they've been solid. 8th in WOBA, 23.4% strikeout rate this season, which is pretty high. This is certainly a lineup where I think Lester can rack up some strikeouts. 23.8% strikeout rate this year, not allowing a ton of hard contact. Sierra ERA just about match up. I think this is what you're going to get from Lester, so you got to pick him on his good spots. FIP, XFIP around mid threes, a little bit high threes. Swing strike rate certainly solid, 10.8%. Look at Lester, another home favorites here, minus 178. Colorado under 4 runs. Rockies aren't stealing as much as they used to. I think that this lineup was running freely, it would scare me off Lester a little bit. Wind's not blowing in, but it's still only blowing out about 7 miles an hour. Lester is certainly not a bad option. 2 pitcher sites, I like him quite a bit. Cash games and GPPs, especially DraftKings, where his price isn't too bad, just 9,700. I still think McCullers ranks number 1 for me on FanDuel. He'll be my cash game guy, so I'll be looking at him. Then we kind of get lower. I mean, you have David Price and Michael Pineda pitching that one. Both run totals under 4. David Price has not had good success against the Yankees. Michael Pineda doesn't have good success against the Red Sox. But, this is kind of a different year here. Pineda leads the slate here with 25.1% strikeout rate, leads the slate in swing strike percentage, 13.6%, 25.1% strikeout rate is second to Lance McCullers. Ground ball rate, 50%. I expect the home runs to kind of even out at some point. 22% home run to fly ball ratio is extremely high. I do think he comes down a little bit. Everything kind of matches up. He doesn't walk a ton of guys. Home runs are still an issue. He's not allowing a ton of hard contact this year, which is a big plus, but he's not inducing a lot of weak contact either. Pineda's just a GPP play at best. He's pitched better at home. But I still think home runs are an issue. I still think this Boston lineup, getting shut out last night against CC Sabathia doesn't make the case, but it's still a little bit risky to target Pineda here in this spot, just given that some of them do have some good success off of them, and the home runs can't fly in that ballpark at times. So Pineda's just a GPP guy. I definitely prefer Lester McCullers over him, and then we'll get to another guy here. Price, I just won't be touching. His success against the Yankees hasn't really been there. I prefer the other guys in the price range. Even though it's a distant total, it's basically a pick'em game. Price just really isn't on my radar tonight. Gerrit Cole, he's a name that kind of stands out. Going up against Miami at home. You look at Miami, against right-handed pitching, pretty average, 22nd in WOBA, bottom 10 in ISO, 20.6% strikeout rate. Gerrit Cole's just been up and down. For the most part, he's been down of late. I don't know how many shares I'll have, if any. I can see the reason of playing him, but I mean, over his last 3 starts, he's given up 28 hits. He's also given up, 8 home runs over his last 3 starts. So I'm not particularly thrilled. Before that, he was very solid, but obviously against the Mets twice, against the Braves. Mets, heavy left-handed team. That makes sense. In Atlanta, that's been a tough place to pitch this year. So Gerrit Cole might be able to figure things out back at home. Like I said, this Miami offense is a little bit hit or miss. They'll bring a couple of lefties to the plate, that's where Cole tends to struggle. He allows a ton of hard contact. The WOBA really jump up 42.2% hard contact rate to lefties, 10 home runs. PNC Park will definitely help that. Against righties, he's been pretty solid. You look at Cole, I mean, allowing just a 310 WOBA, 26.7% hard contact rate. So, I don't hate him. He's my favorite play on the board, definitely not. I think there's another cheap guy that I'll definitely be worth using, and that is Jake Rizzi, Chicago. Under a 4-run total, Tampa Bay minus 165 favorites. Rizzi's always been better off at home. I like the swing and strike rate for Rizzi, 11.3% this year, 20.5% strikeout rates. Not bad. You look at Chicago, they're definitely going to be up in the strikeout department against right-handed pitching, near 24%. Bottom 5 in WOBA, ISO, and hard contact against righties. They don't have a ton of line of power outside of really Jose Abreu, Avisel Garcia, Todd Frazier. In that ballpark, it does neutralize power a little bit. So I don't mind Rizzi. Like I said, he's been better off at home. Vegas numbers indicate that he's in a good spot here. Looking at what he's done, obviously got blown up on the road against Seattle. But before that, very solid. I mean, his worst start before that came against New York. But for the most part, I mean, this is a guy who will allow a home run or two, but for the most part limits the damage. So I definitely don't mind using him tonight. I think he's cash game playable as an SP2 if you do want to pay down at that second spot and get some bats in. So outside of that, Jason Hamill, I know he's had a couple of decent innings. No thanks. Kyle Gibson, Christian Bergman, no thanks. Tyler Chatwood, yes, he's away from home. I just don't think this is the spot to use him. I don't hate him. I think he's a reasonable GPP option, but like I said, I don't know if he'll be cracking my top 4 as far as pitching options go. Ben Lively, R.A. Dickey, you can stay away from there. Derek Collins, stay away. Joe Ross, this is a guy who's usually been tough on right-handers and struggles against lefties. Obviously still struggles against lefties. But against righties, he's going to hit pretty hard as well. So I'm staying away until he figures things out. This is usually a lineup where I wouldn't mind him just because there's only about 2 lefties in that lineup. But that won't be the case tonight. So I'll be staying away from there, and I'd rather get beat with him than actually play him. So until he turns things around, he won't be on my radar anytime soon. So that's going to wrap things up. You can head over to DaveFantasyCafe.com, check out great tools and content.